Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I haven't posted in a little while because I've been putting the final touches on my new walking technique online course, Transform Your Walk Route, Power, and Direction. This course is going to help you learn how to use your core to walk more fluidly, walk with more confidence, walk with better spinal alignment, and lower impact on your joints. In this excerpt from the course, we're going to be using a simple stair walking exercise to help you learn how to create root with your lower abs, how to control power with your hip joints, and how to guide your movements with direction with your upper waist. All three elements of the core working in perfect harmony to create better alignment, fluidity, and confidence. There are a whole host of different problems people have with the way they walk that can lead to poor spinal alignment, increased wear and tear on the joints, and poor confidence and balance. Regardless of what the problem is, whether it be leaning forward, anterior pelvic tilt, shuffling, slouching, overstriding, all of these different walking technique errors have a common source, and that is incorrect coordination between the three elements of our core. The lower abs that control our root, our hips that control power, and our upper waist muscles which control and guide the direction of our movement. When we learn how to coordinate these three elements of the core correctly, we can improve our alignment, move with more fluidity, move with more confidence, and move with lower impact on our joints. And so that's what we're going to do in this video, using the stairs at the top and at the bottom where we can find that clear stopping point, and I'll be able to demonstrate three directions of movement, one curving off to the left, one curving off to the right, and then one moving straight forward towards the camera. And with each of these three variations, we're going to see how the root changes, how the power changes, and how the direction changes. And then we can apply those movements to our level, straightforward walking, and I think you'll have a better understanding of how to create that alignment and how to create that coordination between the three elements of your core. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dr. Todd Martin, creator of The Walking Code. If you're interested in the Transform Your Walk Root, Power, and Direction course, it comes out on May 1st, and the links will be in the description section and posted above. Along with the course, I also have a new book coming out that is going to be a companion piece to the course, but can also be read independently. First, I'm going to talk about the root. The root is how we link one leg or the other leg to the ground to create a stable, neutral pelvic position and create groundedness and allow us to project our core energy off the ground effectively while keeping the spine aligned. We're always going to be rooting the leg that we're standing on, and we transfer the root from one leg to the other leg when we're moving fluidly. We don't want to have the root on both legs at the same time. When we're going up the stairs, we need to root the leg that's on the upper step, the one we're moving onto. The root is controlled by our lower abdominal muscles, and they are going to tuck the pelvis under, and they also rotate the belly button and lower abs toward the leg that you're changing your root onto. So when I'm stepping up with my left leg, I am changing the root onto the left leg, solidly balanced, so my spine and my left leg are connected and then rooted directly into the ground, and my right leg is completely free. On stairs, we often see a lack of rooting because people don't walk upstairs with vertical posture. They bend over from the waist to try to bring the center of gravity forward over the standing leg that they're trying to get onto. But when that happens, by removing that tucking action from the lower abs to bend over, we lose the ability to root. And then now people are bending over and trying to just push up with the glutes without any rotation from the abdominal core. And that creates not only the obvious bend of the waist, putting the spine out of alignment, it also puts our knees and ankles out of alignment over our feet, because that lower ab rotation that creates the root also brings our spine toward the leg that we're going to be standing on. So the spine is lined up over the hip, is lined up over the knee, is lined up over the ankle. This keeps all of the weight distribution symmetric over the knee and over the hips, rather than letting the knee buckle in this way, which is what happens when people walk upstairs bent over. So we're creating the root from the lower abs, and that's going to bring our knee out into the proper position. So without root, my knee is not going to be aligned. You can see when I add the root, my knee is going to come out into the proper alignment over the ankle, and that's going to reduce the stress. Again, that root is created by my lower abdominal muscles on the left, rooting the left leg. We can think of the belly button as part of that turning or rotating towards the left leg, and we can think of it as the lower abs tucking the pelvis under in this manner. Untucked pelvis, bent over. I use the lower abs to pull up on the lumbar spine to neutralize the position of the pelvis and keep it in a level position so my spine is better aligned. That root is created dynamically by movement of those lower ab muscles after I place the foot and I rise up and then push up. I'm moving the root to the left in a continuous fashion. So by the time I am fully up in a standing position, I have 100% root on my left leg, and then I can step off in whichever direction I want to go, which is going to be controlled by our muscles in the core. Now let's talk about the power. Just like with the root, we only want to power with one leg at a time, and how we use that power is going to be critical for keeping proper alignment. The stair exercise is a perfect one to get a better understanding of that power. When we are moving up the stairs, first I have to shift forward and up to get my center of gravity in a position where I can push up with my left leg. If I am sitting back here on the rear step, I can't push up from my left leg. A lot of people compensate, like I said earlier, by leaning the center of gravity forward so then they can push up from the left leg. Instead, what we need to do is initiate the power from the glutes of the rear leg hip to push the body forward and up, while having the root on the forward leg, and we'll talk about the direction in a moment, but that gets me forward and up into a position where I can now use the glutes on the left leg to push directly up. That is the power. When we use the power from the wrong side, it ends up creating misalignment. And that's why a lot of people bend forward, because they're not powering from the glute on the rear leg. They're trying to directly move over the glute on the forward leg to push up. But we don't have to lean forward. We can keep proper alignment if we move up properly with the right power, the right root, and the right direction. Once we get to the top, this is a perfect exercise for understanding power, not just which side it's coming from, but which part of the hip it's coming from. We can power with the muscles in the back of the hip, the glutes, or we can power from the muscles in the front of the hip flexors that move into the core, that pull the leg up versus push the leg back. When we're walking on level ground, it can be a bit deceptive, and people end up using the wrong source of power. The stairs give us a perfect place to feel a transition between the back of the hip and the front of the hip when we are walking forward. So as we push up, keeping vertical posture, I'm pushing with the glutes. I'm pushing up, 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 up until I am in a complete standing position. And I have the glutes on the left leg fully activated, fully pushing down against the ground and engaged. Now, how do I walk forward? A lot of people are trying to walk forward by pushing with the glutes. But how is this possible if we are already in a fully standing position with full glute activation? It is incorrect. We need to now use the muscles in the front of the hip to pull the body forward into that natural step. So find a flight of stairs and see if you can feel that transition from pushing up with the glutes and then pulling forward with the muscles in the front of the hip. I think it'll make it much more clear using the stair example. Now, there are a couple of caveats there. If you are not controlling your root and you're leaning forward, that ends up throwing off everything and you won't feel it. So if you're bent over like this, then you're going to be using gravity to power the step, not your hip. So make sure you're not leaning forward. And then the other is if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, so the forward tilt is in your pelvis, not necessarily in your spine, you're also not going to feel the power correctly. So if I have that anterior pelvic tilt, but I'm arching the upper back, I can get up with no root and no power and move incorrectly. So in order to make sure you're doing this exercise correctly, you have to be standing with perfectly vertical posture and a neutral pelvic position. Then you can feel the transition between pushing up and pulling forward. The second part of controlling the power is understanding which of the legs to do the power from, the standing leg or the swing leg. Here, as we're climbing up, we're powering with the hip of the standing leg. The hip of the swing leg is passive. And here is where we're going to do two different options for power depending on where we want to go. If we want to go forward, like I already demonstrated, we continue power from the standing leg hip, flexing or pulling the body forward into that step. However, if we want to turn, what we're going to do is transfer the power to the swing leg hip. So after pushing up, I have the power in the glutes of the left leg. Now, if I continue the core rotation exactly the same, but I change the power to the right leg hip and I flex it, that is what initiates a turn to the right, because hip flexion has the effect of pulling the body in the direction of the hip that is flexing. On the other hand, hip extension has the effect of pushing the body away from the hip that is extending. So by flexing the right hip at the top of the step, switching the power to this hip in conjunction with the root that I already have on the left, and we'll talk in a minute, I'm going to turn the direction in the direction of the right leg. In fact, it's already there. All I have to do from this position is power by flexing, and it's going to turn the body towards the right. So we've changed from powering with the standing leg hip to powering with the swing leg hip. The final element of the core that we are working with is the upper waist muscles that control the direction. When we are moving up the stairs normally, our direction is forward on the side of the standing leg. That is the upper waist muscles on the left turning forward. When we're walking on level ground, those are the muscles that are directing the arm forward on the side of the leg that is the standing leg. We switch left to right, right to left with each step. The top of the step is the perfect place to feel the change in direction. When we rise up to the top of the step, we should be forward on the side of the standing leg. I can now flex my right hip to turn to the right as I already did, and that pull to the right from the hip flexion is working with the upper waist rotation that's already turning to the right and the root that is rooting the left leg. That is what creates the turn to initiate that next step. On the other hand, if I want to turn to the left, what I'm going to do is take the right upper waist muscles and turn them to the left as I get to the top of the step. So I'm moving up this way, I'm forward on the left. Now I'm going to flex the right hip, but turn the upper waist to the left, and that is going to initiate a step going to the left. And then I'm going to follow through and continue that movement. So you can feel at the top of the step either turning to the right with your left upper waist muscles or turning to the left with your right upper waist muscles, all in conjunction with flexion of the swing leg hip and the root maintaining on the left. The final motion, which I already demonstrated, is walking forward, and that is powered by the flexion of the standing leg hip, continuing to turn forward on the left and rooting the left. That is how I take that step, and then I change the direction to the right to bring down the right heel and continue moving forward, switching one to the other. The root changes from one leg to the other, the power changes from one leg to the other, and the direction changes from one leg to the other. When we use these three elements of the core in perfect harmony, we're going to move with fluidity, we're going to move with confidence, and lower impact on our joints. If you are watching this video on YouTube and you're interested in the course and or the book, go ahead and jump into the description section for the link.